What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Burning Hammer Podcast Live. This is one of the newer installments of things that we're potentially going to be doing moving forward. Is we would love to live stream more for the Burning Hammer Nation, the Burnt Heads. And so let us know, drop a comment if you want to see us do more stuff in the live stream field. We're considering potentially starting to go live on Mondays and Fridays on Instagram and or TikTok to sort of discuss what to expect for Monday Night Raw and Friday Night SmackDown on those respective days. But before we get any further in this live stream, you need to make sure to follow us on all of our social media. You can follow us on X at the Burnt Hammer. That is the best way to get our initial reactions to anything and everything happening in the world of professional wrestling. Like, if you don't want to wait until right now to hear our thoughts on BackLash, then you got to follow us on X, because that's where we type out our immediate thoughts to anything and everything happening in professional wrestling. And you can follow us on everything else at the Burning Hammer. That is the best way to stay up to date with whenever we release new YouTube videos or new episodes of the podcast. You can listen to the Burning Hammer podcast on Apple, on Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcast. And if you are listening to this via audio streaming service, make sure to follow and or subscribe, whatever it is that your platform does, and make sure to rate us and leave us a review. That is the best way for us to find new audience members. And if you didn't know, you can watch our podcast on YouTube at The Burning Hammer. And if you are watching on YouTube, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We are on the road to 1,200 subscribers. We are closing in fastly. Now, let's get in to WWE BackLash match predictions. This was a really good premium live event from WWE. The crowd was insane. Truly one of the greatest crowds that I have ever witnessed on television. And before we actually hop into this, I'm going to sort of give you the scale of my grading system. Now, I know we dunk on Dave Meltzer and his 5-star grading system a lot, which is perfectly fine. I'm not going to sort of take any of that back, because we don't care that he does it. We just care that everyone makes a big deal about it, and they write reports and they count this, that, and the third. You don't need to do that. Just look at whatever stars he gives, whatever matches. His scale goes from 0 to 5, although he's constantly giving matches more than 5 stars. That's all fine and dandy. You just don't need to sit here and write up news reports and articles on it and freak out when people do or don't get a certain number of stars. And so I'm going to be doing like a school grading system. So the average match is going to be a C. Anything below a C is the match I thought was below average. Anything above a C was obviously above average. So without further ado, I guess actually first I will give my grade for the show as a whole. Now, this isn't going to be the average grade, because it's going to be pretty high, but I like to sort of just give my thoughts and my grade on the show as a whole without really taking into account the matches and those grades, although it's going to fall in line very similarly. So overall, I'm going to give this show an A. I thought this was one of the best shows of the year, and it may continue and go down as the best show, as the best premium live event for WWE of 2024. Obviously, I'm going to exclude WrestleMania 40 from that, because personally, I was there. I'm obviously biased towards that, and WrestleMania is just WrestleMania. It's in a category of its own. So I'm not really including WrestleMania for the greatest shows of the year, because obviously WrestleMania Night 2 by far is the best thing that's probably going to happen this year. So excluding WrestleMania 40, BackLash by far the best show that we have gotten this year, and it's probably going to be the best show of the year. I have a hard time contemplating with the idea that there's going to be a show better unless this Bloodline story really starts to take off and cook later in the year, potentially SummerSlam, maybe even Survivor Series, which if you don't listen to the podcast, me and Dylan have had a lot of really good thoughts about things that could potentially happen at Survivor Series, including potentially a War Games match. So I think I'm giving this an A. Probably going to be the best show of the year. The crowd, again, absolutely insane. I truly have not heard a crowd like this probably ever. Most of their international shows, they tend to have really good crowds because they don't go to like their countries that often, and so when they do, they need to make themselves heard enough so that they go return later down the line. And Triple H even had a great quote. They were like, or I think he said they weren't even halfway through the show, and Nick Khan texted him basically asking if they're going to run a stadium show in France. So who knows? Maybe one year we'll get SummerSlam at Backlash. Maybe we'll get the Royal Rumble in France, excuse me. Or maybe we'll get the Royal Rumble in France. And who knows? Maybe even WrestleMania will go overseas. I think that's something that could happen sooner rather than later, depending on start times and all of that good stuff. So without further ado, let's jump in to these grades, because like I said, the show is an A, so a lot of these are going to be very high grades. And kicking us off, we're going to go in order of the matches that went down at Backlash. So we're going in order, and to kick us off, we are going to be doing the tag team street fight match. Now, this initially was not a street fight, but then once both teams entered, they just started fighting each other, and it was pure chaos before the bell even rang. Nick Aldis came out and was like, you guys want to beat the hell out of each other, that's fine. We're gonna make it a street fight, damn it. So then it was immediately turned into a street fight, and boy, am I glad that they did that, because this match was absolutely insane. It was everything that you would really want a street fight to be. It was violent. We got a great surprise in Tangaloa, I believe is how you pronounce his name. And so we got another member of the Bloodline, and it is Tama Tonga's brother, one half of the Gorillas of Destiny, and things are really getting interesting now with the Bloodline story, because you've got Solo, and then you've got two brothers, and then on the other side, potentially Roman Reigns, potentially two brothers in the Usos. So I just, like, this is going to be absolutely insane. I'm very excited for this Bloodline story. I don't know if we're quite done. I'm going to assume we're done with this feud. So it's going to be interesting to see like what happens with the Bloodline next, considering who they're going to like feud with and all of that good stuff. And I am very interested in it because we do have the reported signing of Jacob Fatu. So where does he fit into all of this? And if you didn't listen to last week's episode of the podcast, there are reports, and it is maybe potentially obvious, although WWE hasn't said anything about it, but there are a ton of reports, a ton of different companies confirming that Jacob Fatu has signed with WWE. Also, he, in matches that he usually would wrestle with Zilla Fatu in a tag team, he is not wrestling with Zilla anymore. So I haven't seen any bookings for Jacob Fatu over the past couple of weeks and anywhere in the future. So I think there's a pretty good shot that Jacob Fatu is WWE bound. It's going to be interesting to see when they debut him. I think it's not going to be for a couple of months, maybe at Money in the Bank. It's hard to tell because Triple H always says, be patient. So he's obviously going to take his time with this. We are building this up until WrestleMania 41, most likely when we're going to get Roman versus The Rock. And they did just announce that WrestleMania 41 is going to be in Las Vegas. I believe April 19th and the 20th is when it's going to be. So they pushed it back a little bit. They're trying to get a little bit of that warmer weather. I think being in Philadelphia for this year's WrestleMania kind of like made them consider pushing it back a little bit. I know there were reports that came out maybe a week or two ago that were saying that they were contemplating pushing WrestleMania back so they can do more stadium shows and just not have to worry about the weather. I think that's a good idea. I mean, it's like I personally doesn't really affect me when they have WrestleMania. Obviously, they're going to do what's best for storylines and all of that good stuff. They're going to space things out enough. So if they want to move it back so they can hold more stadium shows, do it, because it is a once-in-a-lifetime thing to go to a massive stadium with 70,000 plus people screaming, all for the love of professional wrestling. But let's get back to the grades here. So for this match, I'm giving it an A. I thought this match was, like I said, it's everything you want a street fight to be. They did a really good job at just like making it violent, but it wasn't like too violent, but it was violent. A lot of trash cans, kendo sticks, tables, a few headshots. Kevin Owens threw a prime bottle right at Tama's nuts, which was hilarious. If you haven't seen that, if you missed it during the match, you need to go out and you need to find that, because that was truly awesome. But yeah, this is getting an A. I can't imagine there being a street fight much better than this. Maybe a little more blood, but I don't know. Maybe a few more crazy weapons. That's why I'm going to give it an A and not an A+, in case you do prefer a little more violent street fights. But I think for WWE and what they've been doing recently with street fights, I think that this one exceeded that and exceeded all of my expectations. So I'm giving this street fight an A. Plus, we got a new member of the Bloodline, so I think overall, the street fight was truly incredible. And what a way to kick off Backlash. The crowd was hot throughout the whole night. They truly just like didn't ever fizzle out, which you always love to see. So let's move on to the triple threat match for the WWE Women's Championship: Naomi versus Tiffany Stratton versus Bayley. I'm going to give this match a B+. I thoroughly enjoyed this match. Now, I'm getting a little nitpicky with it just because there were a few moments throughout where I feel like it was a bit sluggish, where maybe they hesitated a little bit. But again, you're getting really nitpicky with that stuff. So I'm giving it a B+. Really good match. I thoroughly enjoyed this. There were a ton of really good spots in this as well. Sorry, I had to take a little drinky poo of water. There were a lot of really good spots in this, and Bayley got a big win. Excuse me. Yeah, Bayley got a big win. And triple threat match, obviously, you get to protect people. Bayley, you give more people opportunities at the title with Naomi and Tiffany Stratton. I think it's safe to say that Tiffany Stratton's probably a good early candidate to win the women's Money in the Bank match. I think her and Chelsea Green right now are 1-2. I would put Tiffany at 1. And I think she's a great woman to have win the briefcase and elevate her to that next level, which is what the briefcase should do. So overall, Bayley got a really good win, a big win here. Tiffany Stratton and Naomi both showed out here. Great performances by both women, by all three women involved in this. So this is getting a B+. I thoroughly enjoyed this match. So let's move on to the Men's World Championship match. You've got Mr. Yeet, Jey Uso challenging Damian Priest. And so this match, I'm giving a B-. So again, above average. I did enjoy this match. I thought it was like a pretty good match, but I don't know. I feel like they could give me more with it, so that's why I'm giving it a B-. I thought it was really good, and you got the Judgment Day to interfere, and then Damian Priest was pissed that they came out to help him. Regardless, Jey Uso had his moment, and then he kind of had it ruined by the Judgment Day, which is something we talked about on the podcast, whether Judgment Day or whether Damian Priest is going to get a clean win, or if the Judgment Day is going to get involved, or was the Bloodline going to get involved. Turned out to be the Judgment Day. And Damian Priest was not happy about it. He's sort of starting to get fed up with the Judgment Day. And obviously with Rhea and Dom both being hurt right now, it's just Finn and it's just JD. So you're building those cracks more. You're getting a little more tension. And so I think if they're going to split up Judgment Day, now feels like a pretty good time to do it, or at least doing it soon when you don't have Dom or Rhea really in the picture too much. I know Dom's still around, but you can just have like Finn and JD just be like, we're out of here. Like, we're going to go tear up the tag team division. And so that's why I feel like we could potentially get the breakup sooner than maybe I thought, because I think you can have Rhea and Dom come back both healthy and be like, what the hell happened? And you can sort of have them remain as a little duo. But it's going to be interesting to like see when they actually break up. They all got drafted to the same brand. And it's going to be interesting to see how WWE handles people who weren't drafted but who were sort of sidelined, like Charlotte. I don't think Rhea was drafted either. And so it's going to be interesting to see sort of what they do with that moving forward. I'm assuming they're both are just going to both shows are going to fight over signing them. And so I think there could be a lot of really good stuff with that. But let me know in the comments, when do you think Judgment Day is going to break up? But like I said, I gave this, I think by SummerSlam, easily they're going to be broken up. But like I said, I gave this match a B-. So let's move on to the women's tag team championship match. You have Jade Cargill and Bianca Belair challenging the Kabuki Warriors, who were champions. Jade Cargill and Bianca got the big win here. This match was really, really good. I was thoroughly impressed with this. I'm giving it an A-. I don't know. I tried to tamper my expectations because I wasn't sure. Like, I knew all these women could wrestle and they could go. I didn't know if they were going to be allowed to really just, like, go, you know what I mean? And they went and they put on one hell of a match. I thought they did this really well, where you sort of have, like, Jade sort of come in and be like the real muscle of this, and have Bianca wrestle sort of the majority of the match, and then you have Jade come in for probably, I would say, like a quarter of the match, and then just like wreck house. And they also worked really well as a tag team, Jade and Bianca, and they had matching gear and everything, and I just thought, man, I was really impressed with this match. I'm excited for this tag team moving forward. Like we said on the podcast, putting the titles on Jade and Bianca means that the women's tag titles are going to be featured on WWE television weekly. And so it's there. I think they go on both brands. I was a little confused about that with the draft because they said all the champions were protected except the women's tag team champions. They could get drafted to either show. So I don't know, with the titles now moving to SmackDown, if that means that the titles can be defended on either show, or if that means that they are now just going to be on SmackDown, because I do think we're getting a women's mid-card title for Raw. I can't imagine them putting one in NXT and not putting one on the main roster. So I think over the next couple of months, look out for that, because I think that's something that is going to happen, and I think they're going to potentially put that on Raw. Again, really good match. Jade had an insane sort of like combination of moves. I think she hit it before in AEW. I saw somebody tweet, but she kind of like caught Kyrie and she like went for like a power bomb, but then Kyrie kind of leaned back, and then Jade sort of brought her back up, and then she spun her around for like an electric chair, and then she flung her over her head and then just caught her in midair, then hit her finisher. Truly insane. One of those moments where you just see it and you just scream. Like, I literally just like screamed once that happened. So I'm really excited for this tag team, and this is eventually going to lead to Jade versus Bianca probably at WrestleMania 41, and so that's going to be a feud that is going to absolutely cook. So let's move on to the main event. You have AJ Styles, Cody Rhodes, one-on-one, first time ever, and my goodness, I had high expectations for this match, and my goodness, were they met. If you don't like this match, you just don't like wrestling. Like, truly, they went for damn near 30 minutes from bell to bell. I'm sure if you count their entrances, it went over 30 minutes. And this is exactly what we wanted. And I'm happy, like we talked about it on the podcast, and I was hoping they were going to give this match time. They gave it time. I want to say on Cage Match, I believe it went 27 minutes. So they just let them cook, and AJ Styles had a great throwback / little tribute to when he faced off against Dusty. I want to say they said it was 21 years ago, and I think it was for NWA. I know he's defending the NWA title, but early on, in like the early 2000s, they had a lot of like TNA and NWA and like ROH shows where a lot of those were kind of combined, and like it was more territorial with like the NWA title and all of that stuff. But he beat Dusty, wore purple gear. Tonight he wore purple gear, although looks a little too much like The Undertaker, if you ask me, but that's all right. And so this match is an A+. I can't remember if I said that. A+, truly the best match of the night, probably. I mean, right now I guess you can't give it match of the year because you're going to give Roman versus Cody match of the year. But aside from that match, this was match of the year. They could potentially have match of the year 4 nominations all just be Cody Rhodes, depending on how this year goes. If we do end up getting Cody versus The Rock at some point this year, potentially at SummerSlam, and then maybe further down the line at Survivor Series, Cody versus somebody, maybe Gunther. So we could just literally get match of the year after match of the year after match of the year after match of the year from the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes. They hit a burning hammer. Which is pretty crazy in this match. That is a banned move, banned from pretty much every wrestling promotion. And it is just a really, really sick and dangerous, very dangerous move because you're literally just dropping the person straight on their neck. It's tough to hit it well. Like, to hit it good, it's tough to do it and hit it clean. And they hit it pretty well, and they did a good job at not cutting to a different angle for the shot, because I think the angle that they had, they did a good job at capturing the move and still making it look devastating, because you could potentially cut a certain way and then you pretty much see that, like, I haven't seen any other angles of it, but if you could have cut to a different angle, then it doesn't look quite as good. So they did a good job, which thank God Kevin Dunn wasn't there, because he would have cut 10 times before Cody hit the ground. And so they hit a burning hammer, which was sick, and then Cody Rhodes with the immediate kick out, which now, man, I'm usually not a fan of like that sort of spot. However, it's definitely growing on me, because sometimes you just get in the heat of the moment, you just immediately kick out. Like, I think it works well with that, as opposed to just like hitting a move and then no selling the move. Like, how many times do we see people hit a Canadian Destroyer just for someone to like stand up and get fired up and then act like it didn't phase them? Like, I'm not a massive fan of that, but like when you hit a devastating move and then you kick out at one and then you kind of get yourself fired up and then the crowd starts to go nuts, like, I think it works better with that, and that's something that's definitely starting to grow on me. And just the fact that, like, you don't just hit a burning hammer, like, that's something you need to run by people. So the fact that they let them do that truly says a lot about how Triple H and whoever produced this match views AJ Styles and Cody Rhodes. And so we talked about it before, how Backlash is sort of in a tricky spot in terms of it's the first show after Mania, but then it's also the draft happened a week ago. So maybe feuds that you're having at Backlash won't continue because wrestlers get drafted to different shows. But and that was the thing we were talking about, where hopefully we get this Cody Rhodes and AJ Styles feud in the future. And we were saying that before the draft even happened. Well, they're both on the same show. So hopefully, my God, hopefully they let this feud go for, we need at least one more match. I could see them doing it at the King/Queen of the Ring premium live event, which is not after SummerSlam, like we said on the podcast last week. It's in like 3 weeks, maybe a little less than 3 weeks. Excuse me. So, man, they got to let this feud go. I am always a fan of 3-match feuds. Like, I think the feud between Cody and Seth, when Cody first returned, like, that feud was awesome. Now, it gets a little trickier when there's a title involved, because you're like obviously not going to have AJ win the second match. And you're not going to have Cody win the third match or lose the third match. Excuse me. He's obviously going to win this. So just giving like a wrestler 3 straight losses kind of hurts them pretty badly, but AJ Styles can afford those losses. So let me know in the comments. Do you think that they're going to keep this feud going, or do you think we're getting something else, something new for Cody Rhodes with this WWE Championship run? So let's give a quick rundown of the matches. So the street fight, I gave an A. The WWE Women's Championship match, I gave a B+. The men's world title match, I gave a B-. The women's tag match, I gave an A-. And then the WWE Championship match, I gave that one an A. Overall, Backlash, A. One of the greatest shows of the year. Excluding WrestleMania, it was the best show of the year. I'm going to be interested to see how it stacks up later down the line. And, I mean, man, Backlash last year was super awesome. And so I'm happy that, like, I think just Backlashes are just going to be awesome moving forward. And so I'm very excited for this. And the next, what is it? 1, 2... I want to say the next 3 Premium Live events are international, and then it's SummerSlam, and then I think you have Bash at Berlin, which is also international. So I think 4 out of the next 5 are international, which people in the United States, listen, it's bittersweet, right? You get a truly insane crowd every single time. However, you do get a bit of a weird start time, but, you know, it's fine. We don't have to deal with that for most of the time, so I'm perfectly fine with having to deal with it a few times throughout the year. So, Monday Night Raw is tonight. Let's take a look at what to expect. They have loaded this show with King and Queen of the Ring tournament matches, I guess. Now, they haven't released any sort of bracket or anything like that. They literally just announced 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 matches. And I guess they're going to just like have them through in the next coming weeks leading up to King and Queen of the Ring. And so I'm going to give my thoughts about who I think is going to win each match. And I guess on the podcast we'll talk, or on next week's podcast, we'll talk more about King and Queen of the Ring and who we think is going to come out on top of that and all of that good stuff. Hopefully they sort of do a better job with the winners of these matches, because the King and Queen of the Ring has sort of like lost its meaning and lost that oomph over the past few years. Like I remember for like my era growing up in like the mid to late 2000s and throughout the 2010s, but really like the late 2000s, early 2010s was kind of like my generation's prime. King Booker, like you had a lot of like really good runs for King and Queen of the Ring, and so I'm hoping they sort of get back to that and have it mean something, man. So let's go over these matches. So to start off with the Queen of the Ring matches, you've got Natalya versus Io. You've got Zoe Stark versus Ivy Nile. You've got Lyra Valkyria versus Asuka. Sorry, I always mess up her name, and it's very frustrating because it's not that hard to pronounce. You've got Zelina Vega versus Shayna Baszler. Now, those are for the women's matches, the Queen of the Rings. And so let's see. Natalya versus Io. Man, you gotta assume Io's gonna win that one. You've got Zoe Stark versus Ivy Nile. Oh, man. That one's tough. That one I can truly see going either way. Especially with Shayna Baszler in this. I'm going to take Zoe Stark. I think this leads to Zoe versus Shayna within the next week or two, whenever they end up doing these matches. Then you have Lyra versus Asuka. Another tough one. Gosh. I mean, I can see both women winning. Lyra just got drafted. Asuka, man, maybe they do Io. Just let Io and Asuka cook. I like the way that sounds. Oh gosh, I'm gonna take Asuka here. She just lost her tag title. And so I think like just giving her a win in the Queen of the Ring, I guess tournament, or are they qualifying matches? Hold on, let me check WWE really quick just to get the official. I guess it's a tournament. Yes, the tournaments. All right, yeah, the tournament begins. So yeah, they haven't seen any brackets. I'm assuming this is potentially going to lead to Io versus Asuka, and then you have Shayna versus Zoe. So, yeah, I think Io, I think Zoe Stark, I think Asuka, and I think Shayna Baszler are going to win their 4 matches. And then for the men, I'm assuming these are everyone who's going to compete in the match. Oh gosh, listen, I'll give a little preview. Assuming these are all of the participants, which they probably are, I'll give my early predictions on who I think is going to win. If I don't know though. I think we may get more matches on SmackDown. Let me check real quick. I like I would be shocked if Chelsea Green is not in this Queen of the Ring here. Let me check right here. Anything announced? Nothing has been announced for SmackDown at time of recording this. So who knows? Maybe this is. Maybe this isn't. I think I'm going to assume they're going to have 4 women from SmackDown because that makes the most sense and it's kind of the most fair when you have 2 separated shows like this. So if these are the only participants, I'm going to take Io. But if we get people from SmackDown, if Chelsea Green's involved, I'm taking Chelsea Green because, my God, Chelsea Green as Queen of the Ring, it makes too much sense. You need to do that. And so if that does happen, maybe I'll clip this and maybe I'll throw it in a little clip for social media. And so for the men, you've got Ricochet versus Ilya. You've got Ray versus Kofi. You've got Finn Balor versus who originally it was Drew, but Adam Pearce just made an announcement on social media that Drew is not medically cleared. So I'm going to assume they're going to have a replacement for Drew on Monday Night Raw tonight. Again, all of these matches are happening on Raw, which is kind of crazy that they just straight up announced 8 matches, but I am totally here for it. And so, and then you have Sheamus versus Gunther. I'm going to assume that's going to be the main event for Monday Night Raw, and it is going to be so awesome. So let's go over who I think is going to win for the men. All right, Ricochet versus Ilya. You gotta give it to Ilya. I would be shocked if Ilya doesn't win here. You've got Ray versus Kofi. Now this is interesting because you've got 2 of like the biggest baby faces of the past 10 and 20 years going up against each other. Part of me thinks that there could be some outside interference to help Ray lose. So I'm going to take Kofi here. And then you have Finn Balor versus whoever yet to be determined. They could do something funny and have it be JD. Let me see. Maybe it's they just throw in Braun Breaker. Could be sick if they have Braun Breaker replace Drew. Replace Drew. So I think Kofi's beating Ray. Ilya's beating Ricochet. Finn Balor versus question mark. Probably going to take question mark. And then you have Sheamus versus Gunther. Now this one is very, very hard to decide. However, because you had Gunther, I don't know if Gunther and Sheamus actually. Why can't I remember if they have wrestled in a singles match? Let me check real quick. Okay. Gunther. Let's do this. Again, shout out to cagematch.net. They are just like the wrestling database. Anytime I have a question about anything, anytime I have a question about anything, or if you want to see title reigns or anything like that, head over to Cage Match. So they have wrestled in singles action before. Not, I don't think on a premium live event. It's all been like house shows. But I am just giving like a quick little scan here. So yeah, this one's tough. I'm going to take Gunther here. I think Ludwig's going to get involved to help Gunther win because I think we're setting up Gunther versus Ilya. It's a slam dunk. I mean, it makes the most sense. And in terms of winners, regardless of who you have for SmackDown, which, again, I would be shocked if they don't throw in some SmackDown participants here. I'm assuming they will, but maybe they'll do less because SmackDown's only 2 hours, obviously. But it doesn't matter who competes from SmackDown. Gunther is going to win the King of the Ring. He is the King of the Ring. It makes the most sense. He's the ring general, for Pete's sake. So, yeah, I think Gunther gets Sheamus. I think we get that rematch of Ilya versus Gunther at some point, maybe next week, maybe in 2 weeks, but that's gonna do it. I gave my match card grades. We took a look at what to expect for Monday Night Raw. Now, if you want us to live stream more, definitely let us know in the comments down below. I think we may do it like on like TikTok and Instagram, potentially moving forward on Mondays and Fridays. If you want us to do like a watch along, I'm contemplating doing a watch along for like the WWE series that's on the Roku channel, of sort of maybe doing like a Sunday night, doing a watch along, potentially on Twitch or something like that. So drop a comment, let me know all of that good stuff. Again, make sure to follow us on X at The Burnt Hammer. Follow us on everything else at The Burning Hammer. You can listen to The Burning Hammer podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you listen to it, and you can watch it on YouTube at The Burning Hammer, and you can watch us on Twitch for the live streams at The Burning Hammer podcast. With that being said, I'm Mark Izzo, one half of The Burning Hammer podcast. I will catch you next week. It has been a blast. Again, drop a comment if you want some more live streams.